So, new Ableton Live project. As you can see, it's the standard 2 audio tracks, 2 MIDI tracks, and the tempo is 120. Well, we're not going to go that slow, but quite a bit slower than normal, because I thought that today's tune could be 130 BPM. And I'm going to go into the session view, and let's have a look for a breakbeat. So let's go through some classic jungle breaks, and obviously I'm going to be playing them a little bit slower, but I'll just bring a few in. So this one's called Action. So for a quick crash course on what a break is, it's basically just a drum solo from an old school tune. For example, you know, in a James Brown tune, they might get halfway through the tune, then he goes, "Give the drummer some," and then the drummer just goes off on one for a few bars, and then all the rest of the instruments come back in. So one absolute classic is this Amen Brother, and I'm going to turn off warping so you can hear what that sounds like. Shout out Future World Machines. So I'm not going to be using the action break or the amen break today. Actually, the one that I thought I'd use is the funky drummer break. So I'll just bring that one in. And I'll just press Command and L to loop it. And this is what the funky drummer break sounds like. So that's at 130 BPM. Now, it's currently on the complex algorithm, but I'm just going to put it to repitch. And that, instead of time stretching it, it just makes it faster so that it fits in with the project tempo of 130 BPM. Now, I've obviously featured breakbeats a lot on this channel before, and sometimes I decide to warp certain hits to the grid. So if you look at this breakbeat down at the bottom, you've got these warp markers, and you can see that certain hits are not really on the grid. For example, this first snare is supposed to be on that 1.2, and look, it's really late. And in fact, with the funky drummer break, almost every hit is off the grid, but that's what gives it this unique swing. So listen to it again, and it's difficult to really tell because it does sound like the guy's playing in time. Let's listen with the metronome. But what I wanted to show you today is basically what we're going to do is we're going to preserve the swing of the break, and we're going to go along with it, and everything I put in here is going to be put in such a way that it lines up with these hits. So first thing I'm going to do is get an additional kick. So I'm just going to go into the samples, and don't know if you guys have seen my latest video, but it was a jungle tutorial, basically what you can do with different samples. Different ways you can use samples in Ableton Live, and it was featuring this Calypso sample pack from Ghost Syndicate, and the kick that I used in that tutorial was this one, kick 17. So I thought, why not use that one again? So I'm just going to bring that in, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in on the break, and I'm going to try and line things up with this break. So like I was saying, almost every hit comes late, so I'm just going to swing some of these off the lines. So that's the first kick, and then there's another kick there, so I'm just going to click it and hold down Alt and just drag it over like this. Just try and line it up a bit. Pretty much, Future World Machines is asking if I'm doing a rave track. Yeah, it's basically kind of a breakbeat rave track. A bit ravey, not that ravey. So there's one more kick over here. I'm just going to line this one up. Oops. Funky Drummer Break is absolutely amazing, and I find that when you're producing at lower tempos, it's really nice. I don't really like to use it when I'm making a tune at 175 BPM, but when you're in lower tempos, it's the one with the most character and swing to it, I find. So you might remember, for the guys who've been watching this channel for a while, I used to use these Jekyll and Hyde samples quite a lot in my earlier tutorials. And I know that there's snares in here which are pretty hard hitting. So this one, for example, it's a pretty hard hitting snare. And when I'm making liquid and stuff, perhaps this snare is a bit much. But for a tune like this, we might want an absolute slapper of a snare. So as I was saying, that snare is totally off the grid. But instead of putting it on the grid, I thought that we could just go with it and put all the other samples along with the Funky Drummer Break to sort of preserve the groove of the break and have a very groovy tune. So that snare's a bit long, might shorten it a bit. And then I'm just going to drag and hold down Alt so it copies it. So how about you guys? Have any of you guys ever done this technique where you try to follow the groove of the break, or are you more a fan of just putting everything on the grid? Alright, so obviously that needs turning down a bit. In fact, it's the Funky Drummer that needs turning down a bit. Shout out Aaron303 in the chat. So in this Jekyll and Hyde sample pack, there is also some really nice hi-hats. So just going to bring a couple of them in. That's hat one. I think it's raining outside. I hope it's not being picked up on the mic, but if it is, then I apologize for that. Oops. So Misty says follow the break. Clive says I usually quantize, and David says up till now everything goes on the grid, but this is interesting. So what I'm going to do with these hi-hats is I'm going to start off with them on the grid, and then I'm going to show you the difference. So what I'll do is I'll just highlight both of those hats and duplicate a load of times. So now we've got this pattern going on. Alright, so obviously sort of alternating between these two hats to create this little shuffle. But I'm going to go back to my technique of using the Funky Drummer as my swing guide. So what I'll do is I'll just drag this channel down a couple so it's closer to the hats, and that's going to help me line up the hats. So every single one of these is going to start exactly where the corresponding hit of the Funky Drummer is. So you can see there on the Funky Drummer break, you've got this little tiny thing, and I'm going to use that as my guide. So anytime there's a kick or a snare, that'll be the guide. If not, you know, I'll just line it up with whatever's there. So for example, with this one, you've just got that little thing there. Let's line up the hat with it. Alright, this one, that's that snare that comes super late, so I'll just line it up with that. And thanks for bearing with me while I just do the tedious stuff. And sometimes it's good to switch it up and just make a different genre to what you usually make. So if you're a drum and bass producer, have a go at making something at 130. You know, that one actually, for better or for worse, I actually ended up moving that before the grid. All right, we're getting there. Oops. And a regular viewer of the stream and also my student, Marcos, was going on about Florida breaks. And I have to be honest with you, I've never heard of the genre Florida breaks. I don't even know what it sounds like, but I'm really intrigued to know. And it makes you wonder, doesn't it? Like, there's been a whole scene going on in Florida. You could say that Future World Machines, he said, so you're quantizing but not to Ableton's grid. Yeah, you could say that. I'm quantizing it to the funky drummer break. Anyway, this is what the hats sound like once I've moved them all. And let's play it with the break. Shout out Rip Sound Recordings. You are from Florida, so have you heard of Florida breaks? What sort of era or decade was that happening? And how does it differ from other styles of breakbeat music? Alright, let's drag up these sliders. I don't know if you knew this, but you can drag your mixer really tall, and in Ableton Live 12, you can drag it even taller than you could before. And for me, these hats are just way too loud. They need to be put kind of in the background. So now you can play it without the break, and all you've got left is the stuff you've programmed around the funky drummer break. So what I'm going to do now is EQ the funky drummer just to take out some of the bass, since I'm basically replacing the kick kind of. So let's get the EQ8, put that on the funky drummer break, and just take out a load of the low end. It's interesting that, Clive, actually. I've heard people saying so what Clive has just said in the chat, they say main kick minus 12 dB. So this is a mixing guide that goes around the internet where they say that everything should be really quiet and you should be peaking at, I don't know what, but your kick and your snare should be hitting up to minus 12 dB. And I don't disagree with that. It's one way of mixing. And I used to do that myself. But now I've decided that I'd just prefer for everything to be peaking a bit louder. So right now, we're at minus 3.5 dB. What that is the reason why they say that is just to sort of teach beginners about headroom and gain staging and making sure you're not driving anything into the red. But I think once you've got your head around the idea of not clipping, then you can feel free to have it peaking a bit louder, just as long as you're not going past zero. And some people even like to go past zero and take it into uncharted territories. So that's the FD break, that's hat 1 and that's hat 2. There is no right or wrong way to mix. I totally agree. So all of these are drums. So I'm just going to click the first one, hold down shift, click the last one, Command and G, group it together and call it drums. Right? Now, there's no right or wrong way to mix, but I think it's sometimes you could say those hats are too loud, and 9 people out of 10 would agree with you. So it basically still just sounds like the funky drummer break, but it's just got a bit more bottom end in the kick and a bit more top end in those hats and stuff. So it's kind of a bit more of a full spectrum one. Thank you, David. All right, so let's have a look at some bass. So I was thinking about using a Reese bass, and to be honest with you guys, obviously I've taught people how to make your own Reese before, but I don't know if you knew this, but there are actually a load of Reese basses built into Ableton Live, and one of them is this Reese Classic. So I'll just drag that in, and as you can see, you've just got these 8 macros, but if you press this button here, it will reveal that this is actually a wave table. So let's play a note. Alright, so you can see it's the wavetable synth, and it's making a classic Reese bass. You've got a filter there that you can turn down. And let's play something along with these drums. I'm just going to double the drums, so I'll just highlight everything and press Command and D. And let's just have a look at these hi-hats for a second. Make sure everything looped properly. Alright, cool. Oops. Let's try that one more time. So this has got a bit of a glide on it. I'm going to ditch the glide, to be honest. I'm going to ditch the glide. I'm going to play with this filter cut off. I might automate it in a bit. All right. So what I've done is I've recorded 3 notes of the Reese bass. You can see that when it comes to the second and third notes, then they are off the grid already. Maybe the first one should follow suit and be a bit more off the grid, because don't forget, everything's going along with that funky drummer break, which is, everything's kind of happening late. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to duplicate the whole thing and then just alter the bass line a bit on the second time around. So I've highlighted this whole section here and then just press Command and D. That just duplicates the whole lot, and then you can put the loop marker around it like that. Now we've got 4 bars. Now you can click the 2 clips for the bass line and press Command and J or Control and J, and that's gonna join them together. All right, and then I just thought maybe this last note could go, if we just turn on monitoring. Right, let's get the spectrum and just make sure that this is hitting where I want it to be. So the spectrum, for the guys that don't know, it's a spectrum analyzer, but the the device is just called Spectrum, and it looks like this. So let me just quickly solo the bass, and then we'll have a look and we'll have a listen. So you can see that the lowest notes, which are, you know, the lowest frequencies, which are the fundamental frequencies, are ranging between 43 and 78. So I'm happy with that. Yeah, the green cross code can be applied to making breakbeat as well. So we've got a bit of bass and some drums. It's a good start, and it sounds like this. So I was thinking about using some of these 0G samples, and they're basically these, it's from the days when you'd get your samples on CDs, and you've got 0G, disc 1, disc 2, and disc 3. So you can go through these, and there's like loads of different sounds that they used to use to make all sorts of styles of music in the 90s. And as you can see, you've even got animal sounds, bass, you've got beatboxing, you know, sound effects, all sorts of stuff. And you've also got these synth one-shots that you can put into a sampler and play them. And if you listen to some of the samples in the 0G data files, before long you're going to hear something and be like, I've heard that before, and you'll recognize it from some 90s jungle tune or something. For example, this must have been used in about 10 million rave tracks, etc. So it's tried and tested. So what I've just done is I press Shift, Command and T. On Windows that'll be Shift, Control and T, and that creates a new MIDI track. And then all you have to do is double click a sample in your browser, and it instantly puts it into a sampler on that MIDI track, ready for you to play with your MIDI keyboard. So I'm basically just playing the MIDI keyboard, well, playing my actual computer keyboard, and trying to come up with some sort of ravey pattern with it. Right, let's go. Let's have a look then. So obviously it needs work. So what I want to do is basically I want to choose, you know, I basically want to put these near the grid, but not necessarily on it. All right, but I'm going to kind of make them all roughly the same distance from the grid, if you know what I mean. So each one, I'm putting it like a little bit after the line. I'm trying to make it roughly the same amount after the line with each one, if that makes sense. And maybe some of them will be a bit longer. Let's try it like this. So each time I'm just holding down the command button. So basically what that does is, you see that you've got the grid, you've got the lines. Watch what happens when I press command. Hang on. You need to kind of click the end point of one of them and then hold down command. Now, you see how it goes dotted? That basically means that what you've done is you've like temporarily disabled the grid so that you can freely drag these around. And then when you let go, then the grid snaps back on again. So that's a way of you not having to constantly be turning the grid on and off again. Alright, so what we've actually got is a 4-bar loop, but my Rave synth is only going for 2 bars. So what I'm going to do is duplicate it, and then on the first one I'm actually going to make it just sort of follow the bass with this last bit. Right, I'm going to join them two together. Just click the first one, hold down shift, click the second one, command and J joins it all together. And before I go any further, I want to set up the I want to set up a reverb on send A. Now, for the people who have Ableton Suite, you will have another reverb. So you've got the standard one, but then you've also got this other one, which is called the hybrid reverb. What I'm going to do is I'm going to choose a hall, choose this long synth hall. I'm going to put it on dry and wet 100%. Decay, I'm going to put it to 2 seconds. And then in this EQ section, I'm going to EQ out a load of the low end. And now when I send my Rave synth to it, now listen to it dry. Now listen to it with this on. All right. Now, if you've seen my channel and some of my tutorials before, you'll have seen this next thing. and it's an instrument called Chord Pacific Pad, and this is super powerful because if you look down here, you've got all these different types of chords: major, minor, major seventh, minor seventh. So if you just press one note, by default it's on a major seventh, but if I just press major, that's playing a major chord. If we press minor seventh, you know, so you get a lovely sounding chord pad, and you can just change the chord. So I'm just going to put this on a minor. Alright, and I'm basically just going to do 3 notes with this. So I've just turned up that send A on the chord pad, so that'll put the room reverb on it. So what I've done there with that send A and that reverb, I'm sort of attempting to make a space. And what I mean by that is, if you put all your different reverbs on all your different channels, then it kind of makes them sound like they're in different spaces to each other. So one way you can make them all sound like they're in the same space is doing it with a send and return. So I've got my hall, you know, that's why I put it onto a hall reverb. So we're basically making it sound like our breakbeat tune is in a hall. All right. So I've just recorded the 3 notes and we've got them in a clip, and they're all basic. Well, 2 of the notes are like off the grid a little bit. That one was a little bit on the grid. And it might sound a bit much now, but if I blend it nicely into the mix, and also we can mess about with some of these controls. So down here in the clip view, you have this loop button, right? Now you'll see that this clip is 4 bars long, but this loop marker is around 2 bars. So when I press this loop button, that means it's going to play the bit that's in the loop marker, 2 bars, but because the clip is 4 bars long, it's going to play the same thing twice in a row. So that's how you use looping with your clips. Let's go back to those 0G data files and see if we can hear some nice sound effects. Maybe I'll use it, maybe I won't. So that FX48 has got sort of a delay on it, but it kind of cuts off a little bit abruptly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the same delay on it, but mine's not going to cut off as abruptly. So if we just put a normal delay on there, and I think it's, if I put it to 8, no, it's 4. Hear that? So that's my delay. I'm just going to turn down the dry and wet and maybe the feedback too. I just wanted it to not cut off so abruptly, so job done. And also, don't forget we have our room reverb, so that could be sent. And you don't always have to send everything 100%. You could send it less, you know. And let's hear this police siren. You know what I could do? Just drag the same delay, hold down Alt, and put that onto the police siren. Now it sounds like this. So there's also vocals. I forgot to mention in the 0G data files, there's also in each disc there is a vocals section. And if you've listened to a lot of 90s dance music in your life, you're definitely going to recognize some of these samples.
Move, yeah.
If you think about it, this was kind of like the original splice, you know. Producers would just go to these files and make their own thing with it, and everyone was kind of working with the same loops and samples, but making different things with them. So that's like a classic James Brown thing.
Show the people. Give me some.
So we could use these.
Give me some.
What I want to do is pitch it up a little bit.
Give me some. Give me some.
And where was the
Show them. Let me eat. Let me eat. Yeah.
Alright, I'm going to chuck that one in before it as well. Turn it down a bit. In fact, I'll pitch it up by 2 as well. Needs more cowbell. You got to be careful what you wish for.
Give me some.
So I want it to go boom 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 Alright, that's too early. That's too late. We're narrowing it down. See what I mean? Alright, maybe a tiny bit earlier.
Give me some. Give me some. Give me some.
So, I'm happy with that. Maybe I'll just do a little bit of processing on the vocal actually. So, let me get some EQ. EQ8, take out the low end. Can't have James's booming voice in there. No, since it's like, you know, just to layer over the top. Let's send it to that room reverb, which may or may not be way too long of a decay. What else? Perhaps I'll put a saturator on it. So obviously there are quite a few sounds now, and it's almost time to do the arrangement. Let's have a listen with all this other stuff. So I was thinking about a cheesy rave piano. I may or may not use it, but I'm going to try it. So I'm just going to put in a MIDI track, and then there was a piano that's like made out of a single sample. I might use that one. That one. That's weird. Alright, now bear with me. I'm going to try a cheesy rave piano. It might be too cheesy and it might get deleted, but it's worth a try. Is it better an octave up? No. Right, one sec. So it was too cheesy, but maybe I'll try a different one. I've got an idea. Just bear with us. I want to do that thing where it's sort of bouncing from the left hand to the right hand, so start with an F down here. Oh, forget it. No, it's there, isn't it? How do you do it again? Something like that, innit? Doom, ding, 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 ding. Bouncing from the left hand to the right hand. I don't know what I'm doing, sorry guys. I probably better. I think the synth is kind of throwing me off. Doom, doom. Hopefully you can hear what I'm actually trying to do here. It's a bit of a classic trope in this kind of music. Shorter notes. Clive is saying shorter notes. Do you mean on the left hand, as in the lower one? Alright. I don't want to spend too much time on this because I am painfully aware that I'm streaming live on the internet right now. How does it go? Right, so that's basically as far as I'm going to go with that. And here's the drums. Oh yeah, that's it. That's it. Thanks for saying that. Clive said timing is everything. So really, I think if I wanted to make this sound good, what I should do is like make the piano bouncing go along with the funky drummer break. But it's just whether you guys can be bothered listening to that piano anymore, because it's kind of doing my head in now. We'll do it in a bit. Let's take a break. Right, so it's obviously the Reese bass is going to be the main bass of this, but I was thinking it could all just break down to a sort of a squelchy, again, back to the 0G data files and just get some sort of old school rave bass going. Let's go to bass. Perhaps I'll try 12. Thank you, David. Thank you, Clive. I'm glad you guys are feeling it. I hope you can hear what I'm trying to do. So obviously, needless to say, during the intro, it's going to be ravey and happy. And then when it drops into the proper drums and bass, it's going to sound dark and moody. So you've got the contrast of the light and dark. It can sometimes be difficult to hear that because I am making everything in one loop here. But the way how I work is basically I just make everything so it can work together, you know, and it can all slot together. So if you play absolutely everything, obviously it's not going to sound amazing, but as long as they all work musically together. And I think it would. Obviously the grand piano is too loud and it's got too much low end in it. But I think a good way of working is like making loops that could work together if you played all of them at the same time. But you're not necessarily going to do that. And don't forget about the room reverb. One thing I learned from this really old school video called The Art of Mixing by David something, I can't remember his surname, but it's this 80s video where he's put in it's the early days of computer graphics. So he describes the mix as this space, and it's got these blobs in it, and there's like a big blob for the kick drum and a big blob for the bass, and he shows you where to position them within this space. And basically you've got like top to bottom is the volume, and obviously left to right is the stereo spread. But then there's this third dimension which is front to back, and he sort of tells you how to put things right up front or move them further back in the mix. And one technique is to add reverb. So whenever you add reverb to something, just remember that you are basically pushing it further back in the mix. And if you really want it to be up in your face, perhaps you should think about having it drier and less reverb on it. Might be David Gibson. Anyway, check out, just look for it online. The Art of Mixing David. If you just Google that, you'll find it. And it is so old school. Like, the guy's got a mullet and he's wearing like a turquoise shirt that's way too big for him. And everything about it is the most, I think it's either from the late 80s or early 90s, but it's just the most old school thing you've ever seen. Alright, so let's do the arrangement now then. Don't forget to save your work. And I don't know why, but I've made everything at bar 65 today. So what I like to do is just highlight everything and press Command and X. And then we're just going to paste it at bar 33. So that's going to be where the drop is, and that's where you're going to hear the main drums and bass. But everything before that is our little area to make the intro. So it could start off with these Chord Pacific pads. Oh yeah, I was going to do something with this bass. Maybe this could be the bass teaser. So Eager Eyes has seen the art of mixing. It's got these scenes where it's like they've got some actors who are playing like naughty teenagers, but you know how in America, like teenagers, because they leave high school when they're 18, but I think you can drive when you're 16 or something. So for the last 2 years of school, they're driving around, right? So in the art of mixing, you've got this like teenage boy and girl who think they're so cool in like a red sports car or something, just like throwing in little comments about the mix down and stuff. Shout out Mr. Grooves. I'm good, thank you, man. So for the people who've just joined us, I'm going to break down, no pun intended, what we did and what we started with. So this track started off with the funky drummer break, which sounds like this. And what I did is when I layered what I did is when I layered the hits with it, the kicks and snares and stuff, I zoomed in and I tried to line them up with all the hits of the funky drummer break. And the idea is that when you play it all together, you've not got some robotic kicks and snares and hi-hats going along with a very swingy break. It should all have the same sort of timing feel to it, and it sounds like this. Now obviously you could say that these hi-hats are still too loud, and maybe that'll all get fixed when I do all the, you know, compression and saturation and all the stuff to the drums. But right now, kind of sounding like the hi-hats are sticking out, but this is what we've got. The next thing I did was the Reese bass. The next thing I've added, Mr. Grooves is asking me if I extract groove. I've just realised your name's Mr. Grooves, and I'm asking, and we're talking about extracting grooves. Maybe you're the man to ask about that. But for the guys that don't know, basically what you do is, if you've got a break and you really love the groove of it, then all you have to do is right-click, and you're going to see an option to extract the groove from it, and you just go like that, and it extracts the groove from the funky drummer break, and then you'd be able to use that on a MIDI clip, and it's another way of doing it. Essentially what I did. The reason why I showed you this way, because I really wanted us to zoom in on the funky drummer break, and I wanted to just show you how off the grid this break is. And obviously the most swung hit is this snare. It just comes really late. So I wanted my hits to go along with it. And if I mute the funky drummer break and play the rest of the hits, it sounds like this. Now it sounds weak as hell without the break. The break is obviously the backbone of the drums, and I've just sort of sprinkled some extras on top. So anyway, we've got our drums, we've got the Reese Classic. The third thing I added was this absolutely iconic synth stab that sounds like this. Anyway, there's a pad that comes with Ableton Live that's called the Chord Pacific pad. And I was showing you that there are a load of different styles of chords that you can make it do, including major, minor, major 7th, minor 7th, sus2 and sus4. And you just press these play buttons and it completely changes the character of your chord pad. So, for example, this is what I ended up with. This is the minor one. But you can quite easily change that to a major 7th. It wouldn't go with this tune, but it might go with your tune. So it's good to know. Next thing I added was a couple of effects, including the police. We've got the other effect. Might be some kind of animal in the jungle. And then we've got James Brown. So from the 0G data files, we've got a load of snippets of James Brown, and these two came from there, and I've pitched them both up by 2 semitones, and it sounds like this.
Give me some.
Next, I made a cheesy rave piano, which I need to work on some more, but right now it sounds like this. So I wonder how that would sound if I made it go along with the funky drummer break. One way to find out. So what I've done is I've put the funky drummer break to the bottom of the drums group. And I'm going to put grand piano just below it, and that's going to make things a bit easier to line them up. So as you can see, straight away looking, I mean, it's okay. But I wonder if, with the snare being so late there, I wonder if this piano hit would be better off being late with it. So this chord here, you know what it is, don't you? It's these ones down here that I need to line up. Difficult, but basically what I like to do is I want to be able to see both at the same time, as in the main arrangement view at the top and inside the clip at the bottom, and that way when I move the note, you see this here is like a kind of a preview of the note, but you can see where it is, right? So I'll hold down I'll hold down Command, and that allows me to drag it freely, and I can literally just line it up with the snare there. I don't know if this is going to work. This could end up sounding terrible. I might just have to press undo a load of times, but I'm just sort of experimenting live on the airwaves here. One sec. So that chord there, this might take all night actually. And then the next one is this hit here, which is that one. It's sounding kind of janky, but don't forget, it's what it sounds like with the funky drummer break that counts. Alright, let's keep going. So this one here, where is it? Over here. That also needs to be moved to the right to line up with the snare. Which chord are we on now? Alright, so you can see there's the snare, and then there's this tiny little sort of hi-hat thing after it, which I'm going to line up this chord with. And then we've got this note here, which I'm going to move to the right to line up with that next hit. To be honest with you, the next chord's fine. I'm going to leave it as it is. And then what's this here? No, it's this one next. That's fine. And the chord above it. Is it that one? Or is it that one? Okay, that one needs to be moved a little bit. I can't believe 19 of you have stuck around and watched me do this. Thank you, guys. Let's keep it moving. We're almost there. Last couple. So this thing here, where is that? So the question is, can you tell the difference between the first half and the second half? And why? And I think it is slightly better. It is slightly more going along with the break, which is cool. So I'll just delete all this, and then I'm just going to duplicate this side again. Thank you so much for sticking with me while I do the tedious bits. Anyway, so going back to making our arrangement, over here I put Chord Pacific Pad. One thing I know is that basically the grand piano, the whole point of that is that it's going to be in the second half of the intro. So from 16 bars through, you know, it's all going to break down and it's going to go. It sounds like somebody who basically is having trouble playing the piano. Not really playing it perfectly in time. But essentially, you could say it's given it a bit more of a human feel. So I'll just press loop there. That way I can drag this MIDI clip sideways and it'll just keep looping it. Same with this chord pad. Same with this. So what did I mean when I said a teaser bass? Well, obviously, we all know that on the actual drop there's going to be a heavy bass coming in. And they do say, you know, it's best not to have any sub bass in the intro, but we could just have a cheeky little teaser bass. So what about this Police? Could this go right at the beginning? Mr. Groove said the humanize and strum on MIDI can have a nice effect as well. Perhaps we should have the funky drummer break. I'm going to duplicate the funky drummer break, the whole channel, but on this one we're going to have the filtered break. So I'm going to rename the channel Filtered FD Break. Does what it says on the tin. So let's get the auto filter, put it on the band pass. So I wonder if, like, it could sound good just having a little tiny snippet of the break that goes dum dum ka. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a delay on send B, which there is one already by default and I've not used it yet, so I'm just going to use this one. And let's just turn up the... Should I make another funky drummer break layer? Let's duplicate that. Alright, so we've got normal funky drummer break, which is for the drop. We've got filtered FD break, which is for the second 16 of the intro. And now we've got a third one, which is called snippet FD, and that's just a snippet of the FD break. And what I want to do is I'm going into automation mode, and I'm going to go to mixer and send B delay. I'm going to get the pencil tool and just draw in a bit for there, and it sounds like this. Now we can go into B delay and mess about with the timing and make it do something interesting. That's what I meant to do. All right. I don't want the fade out. All right, maybe not the kicks and just the snare shuffle. I don't know. I like it. Don't get me wrong, Clive. I like it. I like the drop. I just don't know what to do with the intro. Maybe I should make the intro 16 bars long instead of trying to force myself to make this big 32 bar intro with, you know, maybe we could just do half of that and then half of that. So the way how you can just, like, you see how I've got 32 bars now and I actually only want it to be 16. The way how you can do that and cut it down is with this. There's a keyboard shortcut you can use to just chop out sections altogether. You know, obviously if I pressed Command and X it would cut it and it would be gone, but we want it gone in terms of the timeline as well. So what you do is Shift, Command and X. See that? It cuts it out and it just moves everything else to the left and makes the timeline shorter. So I'm also going to do the same with this bit here. Shift, Command and X. And it sounds like this. The cool thing about MIDI is this. Once you've put in your MIDI clip and your notes, you are free to just completely replace the instrument. So if you happen to think that grand piano single sample sounds way too cheesy, you could just get a different piano and maybe just type in Rave piano in the samples. mean, that's basically playing the same pattern. They copied me. Alright, so cheesy. Piano. What I want is maybe just like a single sample of a piano, which I can put in the simpler. And the idea is basically you kind of make it sound really fake. You don't want a piano that's sounding like high fidelity and new school. Maybe it should just be, instead of this cheesy piano, I should just put that synth there. Oh wait, I've deleted it. There it is. Right, one sec. So what I did before, I was doing like Shift, Command and X to ditch that bit there. And then let's put the Rave piano later and maybe come back to it. Right, do you know what? I'm making an executive decision to sack off the grand piano. And, you know, it's been emotional. Thanks for sticking with me through all of that MIDI programming, all for it to just be deleted. But that's what it is, you know. Sometimes when you're making a tune, you got to make some sacrifices. Not everything's going to work. You know, I had grand plans for it. Dad joke. This synth isn't exactly perfectly going in time with the funky drummer break. So if you guys are up for sitting through another 20 minutes of me faffing about with MIDI notes, we can do it. I like James Brown. Needless to say, he goes really well with breakbeats. Ben Brown needs the piano. Ding, 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 ding. Piano's gone, mate. Rest in peace. So obviously it's tried and tested, but what we're going to do here is have this goes dun 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 gap, you know, and then it cuts off there, and then everything else cuts off with it. So as you can see, what I'm doing is just clicking the end point of each clip and then holding down the command button and dragging it sideways. So then it sounds like this. Actually, the funky drummer needs to stop as well. The question is, should the police siren be on the drop? Tell me in the chat if you think it works. This. I think maybe that should alternate with James Brown though, so it should be, huh, give me some, meow, meow. Not the whole thing, just one whoop. Watch me! Alright, I need to sort out this intro. Alright, you know, it's time to start adding some automation and things like that, so I should add a auto filter to an auto filter to this synth 5. And then I'm just going to automate that filter frequency. So I was showing you last time, I think, that if you make sure none of your record warp arm buttons, I always say warp, record arm buttons, like that red one, make sure it's turned off and go through and make sure none of them are on, right? Then what you can do is there's this little button up here which is automation arm, and it looks like a little sort of chain link, as in there's two circles with a diagonal line linking them together. That basically means that when you press record, it will record whatever you do with your automation. So I'm going to move this auto filter frequency here, and we're going to record it. So let's go. In fact, I'll have a little run up. No, I think I've got counting turned on, so I don't need a run up. I just need a counting. Let's go. That makes sense. Yeah, it's 2 automation breakpoints, says Mr. Grooves. As in, these little dots on the lines. I've always wondered what they're called as well. I always call them dots or blobs, so now I know. Breakpoints. That's nice. Notice how I've ducked down the filter where this sound effect comes in, so the synth kind of gets out of the way for it to go meow, 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 and then the sound effect is done and the filter goes back up again. That was total accident, but it really works. It also happens with the police here as well, actually. I've ducked it down. So the only part that I don't like is here it kind of ducks down a bit too much, considering it's supposed to be building up to the drop at this point. So what I could do is quickly just turn off the grid, get the pencil tool, and then really carefully try and draw in the actual curve that I want. So if you've ever recorded in some automation and there's a little bit that you don't really like, what you can do is right click, turn off snap to grid. Now the grid is off, and you can like just go in and try and be careful and draw in some bits of curve like that with the pencil. Mr. Grooves. Mr. Grooves says it's making me chair dance. Yeah, me too. I actually really like it, you know, especially the drums and the Reese. They go well together. It's a nice breaks tune. And you know something? I've been recording this whole thing, and I think what I'm going to do is make this into a proper YouTube video. As in, obviously this has been 2 hours long and there's been a lot of waffling and umming and ahhing and talking to the chat. So what I'll do is I'm going to edit it down so it's just the relevant information. I think this will make a nice little YouTube video. And by the way, if you didn't see it, check out the 4 ways to use sample packs in Ableton Live. It's my latest video. It was uploaded on Thursday. And I'll be doing some more over the Christmas period. And I'm happy to tell you that I will be here doing my live stream every Sunday. And it just so happens that like Christmas and Boxing Day aren't on a Sunday. New Year's Eve isn't on a Sunday. They're just normal nights. All the Sundays are normal nights, which means I can be here doing this. Let's listen to it one more time. One thing that I've not done in this tune is any like crashes, reverse crashes, or white noise or anything like that. So that could be a good one. So let me just get some classic white noise. And there's some in this ambient D&B. I usually use this harsh white noise. Now, I'm not going to play it because if you look at the audio clip, you'll see that this is just an absolute block of white noise. And if I played it now, you'd all take your headphones off and then start saying swear words, I think. So what I'm going to do is, first of all, I've turned it down. And I'm going to go into my audio effects, get the hybrid reverb, whack that on there, you know. Maybe I'll use a spring reverb. And then I'm going to put some delay on it. I'm going to EQ, make sure, because you know white noise is full spectrum, which includes sub bass. So you need to make sure you don't have any sub bass in there at all. And the auto filter, whack that there, put it on a band pass. And if you've never done this before and you don't know how this works, listen to this. Now it's still a little bit too loud, but it was sounding pretty good. So this line can start from 300 and go up like that. So I want it to stop with everything else for a start. Yeah, Mr. Groove says that if another way of doing it is to use a synth with a white noise oscillator. Totally. That's the way I used to use it. I'm so old school, yeah. The first synth that I really learned synthesis on was Rob Pappen Albino 3. And if any of you guys have been doing this for ages, you might have heard of Albino. Obviously, those days were before Serum ever existed, probably before even Massive existed. And when it came to making dubstep and making wobble basses and stuff, that Albino synth was the one that I learned on. And I also used to use the white noise oscillator to do these, but nowadays I just grab the sample. Yeah. So Mr. Grooves is saying it used to crush my computer. Yeah, those were the days, weren't they? When you could like max out your CPU with just a couple of instances of a basic synth. It's not really basic actually, it's pretty powerful. And actually, you know how the wavetable synth in Ableton, it has that matrix where you can link this to that. That was the first one where I really learned about the matrix and how you link different parts like the LFO to the filter frequency cutoff, etc. Shout out Sean, been using Ableton since early. So another thing that you can automate is this filter cutoff of the Reese bass. So let's listen to the Reese bass by itself and then play with this filter cutoff. So I think when it first drops, it needs to be pretty open because I need it to properly growl and have some impact. Alright, so let's make sure that little, what was it again? Breakpoint automation symbol is turned on. And let's go for it. And maybe I'll start from here just so I can start right where the bass comes in. I'm ready with my finger on the filter cutoff. You know, we can treat that one as a practice. Oh, thank you, DJ AF. Don't worry, I'm keeping it up. I'm going to be here every single Sunday unless there's like a real, legit excuse why I can't. I've never heard of the ARP 2600. Is that another soft synth? Anyway, if you've enjoyed this stream, make sure you smash the like button. Subscribe to the channel. Consider becoming a member. Oh yeah, that was it. By the way, guys, I've kind of left it way too late to say this, but I'm going to give you this project folder. All you need to do is become a Patreon. So if you sign up to my Patreon, you can have this project folder. I'm going to basically do a collect all and save, and then I'm going to put it onto Dropbox and put the link on Patreon directly after this stream. So if you want to open this up and have a mess about with it, you'll find it there. So let's have a look. Before I do that, I need to make sure that there aren't any like other plugins or other stuff. So we've got basically all the drums are just samples. That's completely fine. If you, oh yeah, that's it. So in order to mess about with this project, you're going to need to have the suite because the Reese is made with Rave table. But maybe I could like flatten that if you guys want, and then you'd still be able to mess about with it even if you've got standard Ableton Live. Then this is a sample. This Chord Pacific is from Operator, so hopefully you'll be able to use that with any version of Ableton Live. And then it's samples, samples, and samples. So all right, I'll check out the ARP 2600. And this harsh white noise, I always like that to be quite layered, quite low in the mix, so it's really a subliminal thing. Anyway, so I'm going to, you know, we've got two, technically we've got two basses because one of them is the teaser bass from the intro. It's still a form of bass, excuse me. So I'm just going to group those. It's choosing the colours randomly, but it's decided to give pink. It's decided to colour my drums group and my bass group pink so far. So let's rename some of these other things. So I'm going to call this Rave Synth. This is Pad. This is Police. This is the other sound effect. Other effects. Then we've got James Brown. And we've got Y Noise. Okay, let's group those all together. So I'm just clicking the top one, hold down Shift. Should I put James Brown in a separate group called Vocals? Or yeah, I will. So this is the way I've always done it, you know, and the mad thing is, I mean, I don't know whether, I can't remember whether I started doing these 4 specific groups because of stems. But one thing I will say is, now stem separation is everywhere, including DJ software, including Ableton Live and all the other music production softwares, right? Guess what? The 4 stems that they make are drums, bass, instruments, or they call it like melodic or something, and vocal. So the way how I've always done my groups just fits in perfectly with the way that people love to categorize stems, which is great because I can just, when I've got a tune that's organized like that, I can just press solo, press export my drum stem, then do the same with the bass, then do the same with the instruments, same with the vocals, and I've got my 4 stems there. Now, obviously, as I was saying, in DJ software these days, you can DJ and you can separate the stems, but it is AI separated, so they're not sounding perfect, you know. But you can put together a DJ set using stems, and if you're interested in knowing how I do that, I do have a video where I explain the whole thing, and it's got a bit of a cocky title because it's called How to Actually Use Ableton Live. And the reason why it's called that, it came from a comment on my Ableton Live 1.0 video where a guy in the comments said, "Today I learned how to actually use Ableton Live." And then I just replied saying, perhaps I'll make a video called How to Actually Use Ableton Live. And then I did. I know that the title might come across a bit cocky, but that's what it is. Actual turn. So what have we missed out? Perhaps I was a bit hasty ditching the piano, but it was sounding a bit crap and I didn't like it. But I feel like there should be one other instrument that comes in. Or, you know, the bass could completely switch, etc. Let's hear the bass. Alright, let's do... Hang on. That's the MIDI clip for the piano. So technically I could just, if I wanted to, bring the piano back from the dead. E-piano cheap could be the one. Definitely not. These ones are weird. Have you ever seen these? Prepared piano. And I think they've prepared it by putting some mutes inside it that completely deaden the sound, and it sounds like this. Alright, toy piano bells. Definitely not. Moonscape piano. Alright, so sometimes you can find stuff that you were just not expecting at all, but could actually sound alright. Anyway, so I don't want an E piano, I want like a normal piano. Right, just before I go, let me go to contact, and you guys have seen me use that gentleman before, so go into native instruments, contact 7. And let's try the cheesy Rave piano with a basic gentleman. Actually, last time I was using In a Pub. Alright, so that's not even in tune anymore. Oh yeah, it's in tune, but it's just not in time. The gentleman comes out, you know. And there's various different presets, like dolled up. Alright, so that's how you make Breakbeat. Well, that's how I made Breakbeat tonight. But yeah, I think the drums part of the tutorial was pretty valuable, how to like line stuff up with the funky drummer and that. There's been a lot of trial and error. But anyway, thank you all for joining me, and I'm going to let it loop round one more time. So as I say, this project's going to be available later on Patreon. Make sure you sign up and you can download it and have a play with it. I'm also working on my course. So in the new year, in 2026, you're going to be able to enroll in my course where I go from like total beginner level to teaching you some pretty advanced stuff within 12 modules. And if you want to know about my course, if you want to like keep in the loop about it, the best thing to do is to also sign up on Patreon as either a free member or a paid member, because everybody who is a member of my Patreon is going to get an email when the course comes out. Thank you, Mr. Grooves. I really appreciate it. Thanks, David. Have an amazing evening. Have an amazing week. What date will it be next time I see you? So it's the 14th today. So it's going to be the 21st. So that'll be basically our Christmas stream next week. So I'll see you all same time, same place next week.